Hello there, it's your friend Phil, project management trainer, PMP exam coach. Today, we're going to be talking about project integration management. Integration management is the first knowledge area in the PMBOK guide. And this chapter, because it is all about unifying processes, I would advise you to read integration at the end of the PMBOK guide again. I know in lots of courses you're made to study it at first up front, which is needful because it talks about the project being authorized within integration management. But to get a really solid idea of what integration is about, it will help you to cover all the other chapters and then go for a second dose of integration. So I'm going to explain what integration is at a very high level. Project integration management is the art of unifying project management processes, the art of combining the different components of project management to give a cohesive view, a cohesive understanding of the project, and to also ensure that the project moves in a cohesive fashion. Scope moves, time moves, cost moves, risk moves, and so on. That's really what the job of the PM is in integration. A great integrator can identify what is changing and what must change in response to that first change. So integration is the PM in the center of the project juggling all those pieces and making sure they're moving along in a cohesive fashion, making sure information is transformed into a report that could be shared with people, making sure that data is transformed into information that people can understand and explain to each other. That is what integration is all about. So the first process here is develop project charter. This is where the project charter, which is a document that authorizes the project, is developed. Think about it. If you're working on an endeavor, the first thing you want to do with your team is make sure that they truly understand the project. You want to make sure that people do not have those overarching misconceptions right from the get-go, right? So you want to make sure that you define the playing field, give them a good idea of the project, why the project is being undertaken, any contractual information that needs to be observed right from the get go or adhered to right from the get go. These are the kinds of things you want in your project charter. Now, the project charter is worked on by the project sponsor or initiator along with the project manager in many cases. In some firms, the project manager is told to work on the charter all alone. And then at the end, people don't sign off on it. But in the world of the PMI, you do need to understand that the project charter is the output, and the project charter could be worked on by the sponsor, initiator, also known as a manager external to the project at a level that's on par with the project's visibility. So we're going to get this project charter as an output. Bear in mind on your PMP exam, I look at this as 6.5% of your exam, or roughly that. They've scrambled around the numbers, but to me, that is at least 6.5% of your exam. Your project charter becomes an input to what happens after it within integration. Within integration, it's the project management plan that comes next. So to develop your project management plan in this process, develop project management plan, you need to have a project charter because your project charter is the foundation. And then you're going to build on that foundation and you're going to get more detail about what needs to be done to get to your goal in the project management plan. Now, the project management plan is the output of this process, develop project management plan. One of the things to note is outputs from other processes is an input to this process, develop project management plan. So when we talk about this project management plan, you need to know all the moving parts. In fact, let me just give you an assignment right off the bat. Go to page 78 in the PMBOK guide. Go to page 78, take a look at all of the different components in the project management plan. You've got baselines and plans. subsidiary plans in this big project management plan. Now, when I say big, I say it to emphasize that it could be a collection of several subsidiary plans to give a larger summary plan. Okay, so you've got a change management plan, a configuration management plan, a process improvement plan, a risk management plan, so on. Some people even put in a health and safety plan, even though it's not on page 78. But the key thing to glean is this is the plan of plans. This is the mothership plan. This tells you where the aliens came from and where they're going. Okay. So the project management plan becomes an input to this process, direct and manage project work. Direct and manage project work is where work is driven. This is the process for driving work to complete deliverables. And for that reason, we get deliverables from direct and manage project work. Also bear in mind the project management plan is an input to other processes such as monitor and control project work. From monitor and control project work, very important to remember, we get work performance reports from there. But let's also take a look at where this project management plan is going. It's also going to perform integrated change control. And in perform integrated change control, this is where the change control board approves or rejects changes. Change requests, I should say. So you can see change requests come from direct and managed project work and monitor and control project work within integration. Of course, they come from many other places, but I'm trying to show you the dynamic within integration. Also, within integration, we have the approved change requests, which are change requests that have been approved by the change control board, a body of people that call the shots on whether a change request should be approved or rejected. We get approved change requests as an output from perform integrated change control, and that goes to direct and manage project work, because if a change request has been approved and it needs to be implemented into the workflow, it needs to go to where the work is being done. So theoretically, the work is being done in direct and manage project work. And that's why you have that blue output going in there. Approved change requests also go to another process, but I'm not going to emphasize that right now. That will be for another chapter. But let's take a look at what happens, the relationship between monitoring control project work and perform integrated change control. Take a look at the relationship here. It's work performance reports. So your work performance reports come from monitoring control project work. They feed perform integrated change control because these could help inform change request decisions. If you're working with the change control board and they need project status to make a decision on a change request, you want to give them that work performance report. That's why you've got that relationship there. Last but not least, we've got close project or phase. Close project or phase also uses the project management plan as an input. One thing that I do not show here is the tools and techniques, but I want you to realize expert judgment. You'll find expert judgment in all of these. Expert judgment, very important to realize expert judgment is a core tool and technique used in integration management. So think about it. Let's go through the steps one by one. You get your charter and then you build your plan. You get your plan and you fuel all the other processes within integration that happen after develop project management plan. You get your plan and then you're able to work on the project to get deliverables, which I don't show here. Deliverables come from direct and managed project work. But you don't just get your deliverables without having some elements of monitoring and controlling the project work. And that's why as you monitor and control the project work at a high level, at an integrative level, you get these work performance reports based on all the information flowing back into monitor and control project work. Those reports, they help fuel the decisions to approve or reject changes. Many other factors and variables come into play when approving or rejecting change requests or putting them on hold. And ultimately, this keeps going on till you get to the point where at close project or phase, all of the necessary outputs are encapsulated in either the final product, service, or result transition output that you're going to get from there, or they're encapsulated in the input, which we understand to be accepted deliverable. So there are many different factors that happen, things we should consider in closed project or phase. Is it a final product, service, or result for real, or is this just the first iteration? Because one thing I'd like you to know is this could happen in phases. This is not meant to be a one-time thing that happens on the project and that's the end of the day. No, no, no. This could happen in phases. Phase 1 could have this dynamic. Phase 2 could be authorized. Some firms have charters for different phases. Take a look at what the final process is called. It's called close project or phase. So we could be talking about closing out a project or closing out a phase. We could be talking about running a phase as its own entity with all of these processes inherent in the phase. Okay, so I hope that helps you think a little bit more about integration and what happens. Now let's just have a few final notes here to show you those key outputs one more time. Develop project charter. We know we've got our project charter coming out. Develop project management plan. We've got our project management plan coming out. Close project or phase. We've got final product, service, or result transition as an output. Monitor and control project work. We've got work performance information as an input. We have the project management plan, of course, as an input. Also, close project or phase has the project management plan as an input, and so do direct and manage project work and perform integrated change control. Bear in mind that deliverables are a big ticket item of direct and manage project work, and so is work performance data. That work performance data will fuel all of the monitoring and controlling processes outside of integration. Don't forget that. You might want to rewind to hear that again. But ultimately, that work performance data that goes to all those non-integration monitoring and controlling processes, we're going to get work performance information as an output from all those monitoring and controlling processes that are outside of integration. And that goes back into monitor and control project work, and out comes our work performance report. Perform integrated change control. We cannot run this process if we don't have change requests. Also remember that to make a decision on whether to approve or reject change requests, we also need WPR as an input to perform integrated change control. We can see here we have the approved change request as a possible output from perform integrated change control, and the change log is a very important output as well. Don't forget that. One more dynamic to observe before we call it a day is that project charter becomes an input to the develop project management plan process. And with that, we are done with our review of integration for today. Stay tuned because I will be having one more session talking about integration and going into the details that I don't show in these slides. We're going to take a look at integration management, the 40,000-foot view, and how it interacts with a few other processes. So look for the second session of this video. Thank you for your audience. All the best on your exam.